Hey guys, we're live. It is Wednesday, and we've been doing these prophetic perspectives every Wednesday in the middle of this strange world we're living in. Well, I'm excited because we have an amazing guest today. And if you've been watching, it just gets better and better every single week. My guest today, Cynthia Garrett, very dear friend of mine, and I'm a family friend. I feel like I'm family with these guys. Her son, Christian's a very good friend of mine. Roger, he's a good friend. And they are just amazing people, world changers. And my goal with these sessions is to bring on world changers that I believe are going to impact you and help you discover the dream that God has for your life, and also equip you to make sure that you're fulfilling that God-given dream. So about Cynthia, she's the founder of Cynthia Garrett Ministries, and she teaches women how to walk out life with faith, passionate about media and its power to impact a generation. She's also the host of a dynamic new show, The Sessions with Cynthia Garrett, which airs on TBN UK and TBN around the globe. She's been a part of massive media in the past, everything from VH1 to NBC, and she's been featured everywhere. Today, she works to educate women and men around the world as to how to find and live their faith in Jesus rather than just simply preach it. That's her life goal. And so we're going to bring her on in just a second. And I want to tell you, her newest book is going to be, I believe, a world-changing message. And so let's just welcome her right now, Cynthia Garrett. Hey, what's going on, Cynthia?
Hi, Jamie. Wow.
I feel like I need one of those, like Arsenio Hall, maybe like an Ellen DeGeneres we dance, or something like that, right? Whatever is clever. And we're doing our thing in the midst of quarantine. How's things going out in Southern California?
I mean, is it appropriate to say I'm climbing the walls, swinging from chandeliers, and ready to blow my brains out? No.
Oh, for sure. Isn't everybody though? It's like if you're not having a little bit of stress, maybe your little like escapism is going on, And so
Don't you love at the beginning of it? It was like, this is great. It's time alone. I can get in the word. Roger and I needed a vacation. We were cherishing the time together. By day 10, I was like, my husband's a little annoying. The vacation's a little long. By day 30, I'm like, I can't stand my husband. Why are we locked in this house together? I hate the house. I'm high maintenance. My husband should hate me. No one should like me. Like, I'm losing my mind.
Oh, yeah. So, that brings us to our first point, which is how are we going to get through this and stay sane,
It's all about those little things we said in the beginning, reading your word and Jesus. I'm telling you, he truly, really and truly, it sounds so simple and trite, but when you get up and you start your day in the word and you pray, it definitely sort of calibrates the way the rest of the day is going to go.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's 100%. And, that's not easy for a lot of people. A lot of people have sort of, I got spiritual dyslexia. Sometimes in my life, I feel like everything's backwards. I try to, whether it's read the word or just pray, I feel like I'm standing on my head. I don't know which ends up, and so especially in a time like this. And, your story is just remarkable, Cynthia. You've got, your background. You've been a host on VH1, you've hosted award shows.
Yeah,
what have you not done? That's the thing. And that's the crazy thing. I feel like whenever I go with you somewhere, you and Roger, your husband, that you end up seeing someone that or someone that spots you in they're like, that's Cynthia Garrett. It's crazy. And so I just feel like, who are you, Cynthia?
I know. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. That's what these books are about. I'm working out my salvation and my identity.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Yes. Isn't that true though? Everybody's trying to figure out, it's like you never arrive. You're always in process. And even when you hit the top, you hit the pinnacle, you're still growing and you're still developing as a person. And so, your book, you outlined your story in Prodigal Daughter, which is your story of coming to faith in Jesus. And just that radical encounter. It was just a radical encounter. And now your new book, which is I feel excitement around this book, I Choose Victory, because this is a moment where we need that message to go just beyond being the prodigal that comes home to living this life of victory that we've been brought into. And so, what is it about this message that we need to know right now that is so important, especially in this time?
Man, Jamie, I'm telling you, I would have never thought because you know how this word is in the book, right? God gives me the gospel. I would have never thought that what he was giving me was going to be so relevant for the time that it was released in, because I think people feel so hopeless and so victimized by this COVID-19 thing. Like, I have friends who have such fear in their voices. Now, granted, those are the non-believers. I have a lot of non-believing friends who call me for strength or whatever, or to talk to me, and I know what it is. They're reaching out to Jesus in me to give them some hope. So I think for me, this book is really about, it's more than just about hope. It's about deliverance and healing from anything in your life that is telling you you're a victim. Anything, whether it's a narrative that was put on you as a child, or some sort of thing that's being put on you every day. If you turn on the news about fear, like every day, you're going to be locked in until the year 2629. You're going to be, it's horrible, when we're looking at and hearing all these just negative reinforcements of disease and pandemic and hopelessness. And man, I Choose Victory is really, it's my battle cry every day, because I listen to all the stuff that my own life wants to tell me about who I am and how I should think and how I should live. And I listen to everything that everyone around me in the news and everyone out there wants to tell me about who I am and how I think and how I should live. And I literally some days just shout, no way, I choose victory. I know what the truth is. I know how to confront this. I know how to choose victory over this stuff. And,
yes. Come on. Yes.
It's funny. I got to tell you something. This is something I really learned this year. Cause so I turned in, and I sent you this the other day where I was kind of saying, isn't it interesting that in the area where you're called to have a message, that's usually the area where you get attacked the most, right?
Totally.
So I was given this book deal 2 years ago. And then it just took, there was a lot of time, like my publisher, my editor changed companies, and there was sort of one delay after the next. So by the time I turned in the manuscript of the actual book, I turned it in, I Choose Victory, moving from victim to victor. And I'm so proud, because I'm like, this is the next season of my life. I'm going to take all the bad that's happened to me and I'm going to show people how to choose victory. And I turned in the book, and within 1 week, my entire world exploded. Roger got diagnosed with cancer, and I found out that my older half brother, who sexually abused my sister and I for years as little children, had stolen our life story and made a movie. And Apple bought the movie and was intending to release it as their first feature film and Oscar contender. And I felt like I was physically and mentally and emotionally being raped again of my identity.
Wow.
Right? So it's like I've spent 30 years putting my head together and my life together and choosing victory over sexual abuse,
Yes.
and teenage rape. And then all of a sudden it happens again, and Jamie, I turned in that book and I'd never felt like a bigger victim in my life. And all of a sudden I went into the next month of questioning, why, God, would you let me write this book? Like, are you trying to make a fool out of me? Like, there's no way I can tell anybody about how not to be a victim when I've never felt like a bigger victim. And I'm telling you, the craziest and most amazing thing about God and the journeys that he takes us on is that through the course of all of this, and about most of these battles because you've been a prayer partner and warrior for us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember this. I remember this vividly. Yes.
Yeah. So the journey was interesting because what God showed me was, he said, first of all, daughter, I want you to be really sensitive to people who are being victimized and to people who can legitimately wear that label victim, because most people don't choose to be victims, right? The little kids in Africa who are starving, they don't choose to be victims. The woman that's in an abusive marriage, the guy that's lost his job and he has no money. Like, people don't necessarily choose to be victims, but they just don't know how to choose victory. And so he flipped my whole world around and my whole perspective. And I know why. It was so that I could, with great sensitivity, tell people, no matter what you're going through, the choice for victory is still yours to make.
Yes.
It's still mine to make. Jamie can't make my choice for me.
No.
I have to do it.
Yes. And there's I find there's the fight to get there, and then there's the fight to stay there. And that is really where people miss the mark. They got the fight to stay there. It's like maybe they did something, like they had their massive weight loss journey or something like that, right? And then they get there and they're like, woo, now I can eat all the pizza I want, right? And I've been there. I'm like, put extra pepperoni on there. I'm ready. But the fight to maintain is one of the biggest keys to victory, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The whole last section of my book, I break the book up into 4 sections. There are 4 areas where I view our war zones. So there's the personal war. Yeah.
Come on.
And we've got to wage an effective war in each of those zones in order to choose victory. And in the 4th zone, to really walk in victory. So the first war zone is the political war zone. I mean, the personal war zone.
Yes.
That's our stuff, right? That's what I lived through as a child. That's what my parents told me. That's the kid in school that bullied me as a kid. It's all that personal stuff. Carry with you into your second war zone, which is the spiritual war zone, which has to do with, a lot of times, not just whether or not you have faith and the battle to have faith, but it also has to do with dealing with the sin and the behavioral patterns that formed because of your personal war zone. Because when that happens, like, my response to being sexually abused was to become a girl who I looked in the mirror one day and went, you are going to have power over men. They are never going to have power over you again. Well, you put that on a 25-year-old girl who's semi-decent, good looking. And I acted pretty sinfully, for a good number of years because I thought that was my victory. But no, what that was me not really waging war in my spiritual war zone to realize that godliness and purity and defeating the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life, the desire for fame and recognition, all those things are yearnings outside of God. They're trying to fulfill something that you can really only fulfill in Christ. And then the 3rd section of the book is the political war zone. And that's just pretty easy. I mean, we live in a nation that is at war with itself because no one is fighting in their own personal war zone. They're not fighting in their spiritual war zone to be the right kind of a human being. So what happens when you get into a political war zone? You get into a war zone filled with people who are broken, who are breaking other people, who are angry and mad, and they want a victims group so they can stand on a podium and shout, time's up, me too, you go there, and I hate you, and I blame you, and I'm mad at this, and it's crazy.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It's that feeling of powerlessness. And when you feel powerless, you grasp for power that you don't even realize you could have if you find who you are in Christ. And so that's a game changer. I am so glad you put that in there because that is something that so many people avoid, a topic so many people would avoid talking about. Yet so many people are struggling in that same area.
Oh, yeah. I mean, oh, God, I feel, Jamie, it's just because I feel like to keep it real, I've struggled in all these areas. I mean, I struggle in these areas, right? Like I know that I believe that the reason why God called me to even have a voice in ministry or whatever we're doing is to just be real, because we're all works in progress until the day we die.
Yeah.
And the day that the day that I feel that I've arrived is probably the day that I'm dead. And I feel very much alive right now. Like, I'm not ready to go anywhere. There's a lot of stuff I still want to work out and do. And I just, all of these things I struggle with. And so I think the greatest thing about my relationship with anybody is my ability to be transparent with them. And so that's the greatest thing about my relationship with God. I want to be able to be transparent with God. He sees me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not hiding my stuff, you know. So to me, all of the sin that I've struggled with, or all of the, you know, even what I believe politically, being so different than what so many people believe politically in Hollywood, you know, people of color, women, like all of it, it's really born of me really looking at things going, I don't value being popular. I value being correct before God in my definition of what correct is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and you're coaching young women primarily. I see on your show the London sessions, and you've got your community and leaders, men that are running this race. But so often, I'll be just real. So often, men have the hardest time being honest, transparent, and vulnerable, and you know, they sort of like, you know, pawn it off on that's a woman thing. You know, and they don't really let their heart show. And there's a strength in that. There is a strength in that is missing in being instilled in the lives of those, you know, they're struggling for years. And there's a key there for victory, wouldn't you say?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You know, there's a strength in it because unfortunately, look, I mean, being vulnerable and being able to be transparent is about power. You know, I mean, look at David. Look at David. I mean, David would lay on his face and cry, and I did this, and I'm horrible, and blah, blah, blah. And God would go, you're right. Your heart's clean. Stand up, go, let me give you more.
Yes.
And I honestly think that, and I've always known this, you know, when I'm really rooted in the Lord and I'm just bare before him and aware of my frailty, aware of my sin, aware of my stupidity, like I used to go away and take silent retreats because I was so convicted that night. I love to talk. I'm a communicator, but I was like, 90% of the dribble that comes out of your mouth is worthless. Go sit somewhere for a week and be quiet. Like I would find so much more power in myself and to be able to give to other people just by being able to just be real with myself about myself, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where God could really move through me, is when maybe that's really just dying to our flesh.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Let me ask you this, Cynthia. You know, I see people, you know, walking around the same mountain over and over and over. And it seems to me that they're just so there. They're right there on the cusp of breakthrough. But you know, quite often they find themselves in breakdown. How do people push beyond that breakdown into breakthrough and stop walking around the same mountain over and over and never progressing? What's going on there?
Wow. I've been on that. I call it the hamster wheel in my mind, you know, and that hamster wheel in your mind that runs over and over the same things and bad events and people who've done you wrong. That usually has a lot to do with it. It's whatever victim's narrative that you clung to that just keeps you on this loop. I got to fight this. I got to win this. I got to beat this. I got to do this. I got to fix this. And that will never do it. And I think the reason why people get stuck there is because they really and truly refuse to humble themselves and surrender to. For me, the biggest victory choice that I've made is my choice for Jesus Christ. And I mean, you know, because that has relieved me of the burden of thinking I have to fight alone. I have to fix it alone. I have to get off this hamster wheel that has me going around and around in my life, getting the same result all the time alone. I know that I have a very powerful God who's working with me. So I'm trying to partner with him so that all of a sudden I begin to realize that it's the partnership with him and the looking at him that causes you go from these circles to all of a sudden the circle now becomes a straight line. And wow. God who's leading you straight. You're no longer leading yourself. Because I think when you're leading yourself, the only place you can lead yourself is in circles. Because we don't have the power to push forward in our life, in our calling, and in our purpose in a way that's really powerful and effective without God and without surrender and submitting to him as Lord of our lives.
So good. Yeah. So good. I mean, we're definitely in a TED Talk society, and it's sort of and I'm just going to go there. I mean, people. I've got friends of mine. I go to church, and they rather than handing you a message, from TD Jakes is going to life transform you, bring you to the cross, bring you into resurrection. They're like, check out this TED Talk. It was amazing. And I go, look, I love that stuff. I love it. But if you're not finding Jesus, none of that stuff, it's all just trying to perfect something that is not going anywhere.
And it's in the Bible. Romans, having a form of godliness, but lacking the real power. That's what that is.
Yes. I mean, listen, guys, if you're watching this, Cynthia, Garrett, I'll tell you, this is a message that we need to have right now in our hearts. It's I choose victory. And this is a time for us to begin to choose victory. If this is blessing you, please share this right now, because I know many people need to hear this message. It's not just about you getting a bunch of principles or you getting a bunch of tactics. It's finding your identity and living out of that, choosing victory from that core place of identity that's only found in Jesus. Come on.
You have to go to war, Jamie. And nothing valuable is not worth fighting for. So I'll flip it around. Anything that's valuable is worth fighting for. And that, at a certain point for me, is how I saw my life, my personal war zone, the first war zone, right?
Yes.
I knew that if I wanted to live a healthy life, if I wanted to be married to a healthy man, if I wanted my son to grow up to be a healthy human being, then I had to first choose health. And I knew that my health was under attack. My spiritual health, my mental health, my heart health, it was under attack because of the situations that I've been through in my life. Because I was sexually abused as a little girl, because I was raped as a teenager, because I was divorced in my first marriage and it was horribly physically abusive, mentally abusive, and the whole 9 yards, because, I'm a cancer survivor. Like, I could go on and on and on. Because of those things, my health was under attack. And I don't mean really physical health, because most people know you can be physically healthy, but if you're not healthy here in your mind and here in your heart, it doesn't matter. It's just like if you're healthy in your mind and your heart, but you don't have your physical health, it's kind of lacking something that matters, because we want the whole thing. We're supposed to be healthy mind, body, and soul. So going to war is like, if you're not willing to go to war to fight for the health that you want, then come back and join us when you're ready to do the work. Because at some point I had a girlfriend who looked at me, and I think I was dating this guy. He was, undoubtedly he was famous. Undoubtedly he was really good looking, and undoubtedly he was probably completely inappropriate for me to be dating. And
I love your honesty, Cynthia.
The trifecta of wrong was undoubtedly there. So
Yes.
I have a girlfriend who looked at me, and she was an older girlfriend, and she was and still is a believer and was mentoring me back then. And I didn't even get it as a girl in my 20s and 30s. And she looked at me and she said, so as I went on and on about, and he does this and he does that, and he just booked this show and did it. And she said, great. So how's that working for you? And I remember kind of looking at her like, and that was what she always asked me. She'd always listen to me and she'd go, great. So how's that working for you? So right. I literally I'm like, if I could look at everybody watching, what I would say to you right now is, however you're trying to live your life with all of its stuff, how's it working for you? Because if your answer is like mine was, and the answer is it's not really working for you in the way you really want it to work for you, then you've got to be willing to now do the work and go to war. And that war is really about understanding that you got to attack your personal war zone and win. Then you attack that spiritual war zone, which is impacted by your personal, to win. And then you're going to impact yourself as a citizen in a community of people and politics in a country and a nation and a home and a family. And you've got to go to work there and win. And then you get over here to the walking in victory zone, and you still have to fight, because once you make that choice, you have to understand that walking in victory, even though you made the choice, you'll still come under attack. It's like I wrote the book called I Choose Victory. I turned the book in, and that same week I get completely knocked out. Total, wasn't even a TKO, it was a physical punch to the face.
Wow.
My face going, I'm a victim. That's it. I give up.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Listen, this is amazing. This is powerful because, guys, listen, if you're watching this, one of the big things, the hurdles that everybody faces is they're unable to identify the challenge that they're in. They cannot identify the enemy. They know that they're having opposition, but they can't even focus on what is coming against them. Where can their life grow? This book is a roadmap for you. It's a roadmap for you to get back into victory that's in Jesus. You know, how often is it we're sitting around, we're trying, you know, we know that we're under attack, Cynthia, but we don't know even what we're dealing with. It's like I'm going, I know something is off, but I can't tell what it is. Have you ever felt that? Is that something that you struggle with?
Oh yeah. I mean,
how do you get over that? What are the keys to get over something like that?
Well, you know, for me, prayer was prayer in the sense that I would ask God, you know, and be real with God. Okay, I'm behaving like this, or this is happening, and I don't know why this is happening. And I really need to be clear and have revelation, like a real heart openness to hearing the truth. Because, you know, the truth hurts. And I had to be at that place where I was like, I don't care if the truth is that the reason why I'm going through this or feeling this way is all my fault. I just want to know how to deal with it and how to overcome it. And so for me, it involved a lot of looking at my own brokenness, because I can joke about it and laugh about it today. And humor is such a beautiful thing that God has given me to deal, you know, but the reality is, I mean, I had a lot of brokenness from the situations that I had lived through. And I knew that I needed to do the work. I needed to confront the brokenness one by one. You know, I needed God to walk me through that journey of, you know, well, how did it make you feel? And what do you still carry with you today? Is your relationship and the way that you're dealing with men, this was before I was married, does that have something to do with you being sexually abused? You know,
wow.
Right. And then you begin to see the connections in your life. And all of a sudden you realize this spiritual war zone is really real, because that's where the enemy will jump on the back of the things that were legitimately done to you, that legitimately emotionally hurt you and broke your heart. And he will use it, and he will pick and poke and twist so that the natural feeling you have of shame, because as a child, when you're sexually abused, you don't know you just feel dirty and ashamed. You know, you don't know why this happened, but the enemy then will take that shame and he'll turn it up, and he'll manipulate it. You'll have low self-esteem. So when the enemy works in low self-esteem, what do? You look for love in all the wrong places. You look for validation in the number of likes that you have on Facebook or Instagram, or you start judging yourself by how other people respond to you. So it's really, for me, it was about confronting my own brokenness and being willing to do the work there. And that's really why I see these different war zones as war zones. Spiritual warfare is real, guys. Like it's real, you know, and yes, what God does to beat, you know, and defeat the enemy in our lives is much bigger. But you also have to understand that there is an enemy of your soul, you know, and
totally. Yeah.
And he uses our mess. He can use our own messes against us.
Oh yeah. 100%. You know, I've seen it so often. People, you know, they're showing their wounds instead of their scars. Yes. And, you know, they're not there in their healing journey yet to be able to show, these are my scars. I've been there. I've gotten victory in this area, but they're showing their wound and it's ugly. You know, maybe somebody you take into Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or wherever, and you're like, I hate men, or I hate women, or I hate the church, or I hate work, or I hate my life. And those are real things that you're struggling through, but there's real help. You know what I'm saying? So how do you get past that moment where your wounds are festering, and now God wants to turn them into glorious, beautiful scars, you know, just like Jesus, right,
Yeah.
Cynthia? Jesus still had his scars. He still has he could have walked up out of that grave healed, not even showing any visible sign of his affliction, but
Well,
yet he got up. And what is that? How do you get past the wound?
well, I got to tell you, you won't have necessarily a Roger. My husband was really instrumental in this, because the first place that he led me was to forgiveness. That, the first big lesson that I learned myself firsthand was that the only way you begin to overcome this stuff is to forgive the people that have harmed you, disappointed you, hurt you, abused you, all of it. And, for anybody who's watching and you're thinking, that person doesn't deserve my forgiveness, then let me put it to you the way that it was put to me. It's really not about what that person deserves. It's about what you deserve. Because the reality is that my relative who sexually abused me doesn't deserve my forgiveness. The person, that harmed me or marginalized me or raped me as a teenager, they don't deserve forgiveness. This isn't about what people deserve. It's about where you took us a second ago, Jamie. It's about the cross. It's about the fact that Jesus Christ died for our sin. So Jesus's biggest gig on planet Earth is about forgiveness. Period. My Savior is about forgiveness. Every day I need his forgiveness. So it was about, when you hook into that, you realize that the spiritual key that claims eternal life for all of us is the same spiritual key that has power to unlock you from the grave of what was done to you. Because when you're living as a victim, you're living in a grave. And that's where Satan wants us. He wants us dead. He wants us dead to our calling. He wants us dead in our purpose. He wants me to feel so ashamed and embarrassed about my life that I would never open up my mouth and speak the word of God to anybody else and tell anybody else, hey, if you're going through what I went through, let me tell you, God's the only way to overcome. You can choose victory. And so forgiveness was huge, because forgiveness isn't about, saying that what someone did to you is right. It's not. What they did could very well be wrong. But forgiveness is just about taking your right to judge and giving it to God, and understanding that God's a better judge than we are. And that was the first big place for me to start. And it's the first big place that I recommend anybody start. You have to really go through and forgive all those things that have happened to you. And for a lot of people, Jamie, I also was one of those people that needed to forgive God, because when you're a child and you don't understand why something bad happened to you, but people tell you God is real, or you even believe that God is real, then it's like, well, I believe you're real, Dad, but why did you allow this to happen to me? What's wrong with you? I'm mad at you. That wasn't right. I mean, think about I remember Christian, my son, when he was a little boy, and something wouldn't go his way, or he would want something, and to teach him a lesson, or maybe he'd hurt himself, and so I wouldn't jump to help him. I'd let him try to work it out, so that he could be strong, because okay, it's like, this happened, but I need you to know how to deal with this in life. And how can what's a great, it's a great way, a great illustration. For anybody who saw Jamie Foxx in that film, Ray,
so good.
Right.
So good. I'm a big fan.
Remember that scene where Ray's mom lets him stumble around in the darkness?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. She didn't cause his blindness, but she knew that he needed to learn to deal with his blindness in the world. And he's crying, Mommy, where are you? As a parent, I wept in that scene, because I realized that I had to strengthen my own child in pretty much the same way. But Ray was angry at his mom for a minute. Like, what's up with that? What kind of a lesson was that? Like, where were you? And I guess for me, forgiving God was really about looking at it and realizing that God didn't cause these things. He didn't even allow them. But in guiding me through them, he was willing to deal with my anger in order for me to go on the journey with this. And God, because he loves us, gives everyone free choice. Okay, so what am I saying? So let's say I'm stranded on a desert island and there's only one guy there and it's my husband, Roger, and I got to choose a spouse and there's only Roger there, right? So I choose Roger.
There you go.
Right? That's not really free choice. But if Roger really loves me, I'm going to be on that island and Roger's going to put 10 people there with him. And he's going to say, you choose whatever you want. And so I'm going to look at those 10. Well, then when I choose Roger, I've really made a free choice. That's how God, I believe, loves us, because he put us in this world with all this stuff. And a lot of people choose the wrong thing. They choose to do wrong with their free choice. They use their free will to hurt other people. So when I really understood the nature of God, who God really is, then I understood that it was my brother who did me wrong when he sexually abused me. It wasn't God. And it was
Right.
God, it was God who got me through. It was God who healed me. And it was God who gave me a cry of victory in my heart so that I could push on through it and get out of the victimization, get into victory. And, you know, we all become a part of a victims group, right? At some point in our life. I always say I could be the poster child for every victim group today. Time's Up, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Purple Lives Matter, you know, divorce, survivors of divorce, cancer survivors, AA, victims of AA, you know, former drug addicts. Like I could literally be a poster child for all of those movements.
Cynthia, you're hilarious.
God, I'm exhausted, God. You know, but the reality is, it's like those victims groups without a solution, man, they're exhausting. They're just victim groups. So for me, it's like, I don't really want to be the poster child for your victim group. I want to be the poster child for victory. I want to be in the group that says, yeah, all that happened, but guess what? It wasn't right. It wasn't necessarily all my fault. Some of it maybe was my fault. I'm sorry for all of it. I choose victory. Let's keep it moving.
Oh my gosh. That's the best. That's the best. You know, I know that there's a moment I'm getting stuck and my identity is being compromised. You know, I can tell when my identity is being compromised. I've had strange dreams where my wallet's stolen or something, you know, and I'm going, oh my gosh, you know, it's the identity thief. And then, you know, you get this fake ID from the enemy. And it's a fake ID is like, you are a victim. The fake ID is you know, you're rejected. You're not loved. That's the fake ID. And man, Cynthia, I am so glad you are way past those things.
Oh my gosh, I'd be a Louis Vuitton credit wallet filled with ID. I mean, I'd have so many credit cards, it'd be ridiculous.
That's so great. That's
Jamie, you want to know something crazy? Here's another fake ID. Because this is what I realized too. Another fake ID can look like this. You're famous. They all think you're cute. Everybody wants you. You got it going on. You're in first class. You're this, you're that. That can be a fake ID too. Because then people start to deal with you in this fake thing and you know underneath you're not happy. You know, there's something fake.
Wow. Yep.
Of that. The enemy can use even a very glamorous looking to the rest of the world. The enemy can use something that looks like success on the outside to everybody else to also keep you in a fake counterfeit identity. Because I got to tell you, there was a time in my life where, I'll put it this way, some of my behavior with, you know, or some of the people maybe that I dated or who thought that they were in love with me or what have you, they were so powerful and successful that my own family thought, oh, that's so cool. And it's like, really? This person's totally inappropriate. You think this is cool? Well, they're rich and famous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I looked like the height of the world's success, but it was wrong. And then people say that's okay. That's where, like, this whole fake identity deception thing that the enemy pulls on us to get us to essentially embrace being a victim, it's really deep. Because even though that looked like victory to the entire world, I knew that it was not. It was being a victim. Because when you're involved in anything, no matter how successful you think that it is, or that people tell you it is, and it's below the standard that God has created for you in your life, it ain't successful. It's victimization, and your victory is to walk away from it. So for me, even in my career at a certain point, I really did get on my face and count the cost. And I counted it all as loss for the excellency of knowing Christ. And the more that I knew Christ, the more the way that I lived changed. The way that I thought changed. Playgrounds and playmates changed. My politics changed. The way that I vote is different. I love all these. I mean, we have these things called blue churches out here in California. Now, don't you just love a church that can vote against the Bible? And they exist. You know, I mean, if a candidate is pro-abortion, I can't vote for that candidate. I mean, not because I judge any woman if she's had an abortion. I've been there. I had 2 as a young woman. I thought it was okay. That was the conditioning that I had. But once I laid on my face and repented when I got saved in a prison cell in a different country and was hoping to God that the baby inside of me didn't die, all of a sudden I looked at the choices that I had made, and I knew I had believed a bunch of lies about my identity. And there wasn't anybody around me to tell me the truth, because most of the people around me, they didn't know. They weren't bad people. They just thought you're young. And so we, along with the chorus in the world, would say to you, you're too young to have a baby. You should get an abortion. It's okay. It's legal. Well, it might be legal, but it doesn't make it right. Yeah. And that's kind of the reality with myself that I always want to live in. And it's the real zone that I really want, especially other women, to live in. Because if we get real about the power that we possess as women, the whole game would change. The whole way that we relate to men would change. You know, we have the power. We have the power to say, no, if you want it, Beyonce had it right. Put a ring on it. There's a reason why so many girls love that song. You know, I always go, like, you go in these places, like, I love it. And that song will come on, and and these girls are dancing around, and then they leave the club and they go have sex with somebody they met. And it's like, what about Oh. Right. Yes. Intuitively, we know, gosh, if you want it, honor me and marry me. I'm God's daughter. I'm made in the image. My father's a king. Marry me, honor me, you know, treat me right. And I will and should treat you right, you know, and we have it all it's all jacked up. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And it's all victimization.
This is awesome. This is awesome. I'm thinking, Cynthia, there's going to be a real life story of Cynthia Garrett, you know, and the sequel is right here. We got the sequel right here. I Choose Victory. And, you know, your story is just so inspiring to so many people. I know you're watching this right now. Different people are watching this, and they're going, okay, I don't feel like I can begin. I don't even know where to start. And where can they start? What's like the first baby step that they can start?
I think your first baby step is to admit that you need help. Your first baby step is to admit that maybe you're living your life thinking like a victim, and maybe nothing really hugely wrong has happened, but you know that there's something about the way that you're living your life and the way that you're thinking that's wrong. There's some victim mentality in there, I promise you. And so my first step was to start buying anything I could and sitting there with my Bible and with whatever was helping me to, you know, learn and translate and interpret what I was reading in the Word of God. That was my first step. That's the easiest first step for you to take.
100%. Yes.
You know, reach for the help. It's there.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. People will pay $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 for this or that, or you know, $200,000 education. But, you know, they really, they think they're taking the biggest risk by investing in their spiritual life, you know, and it just, I go, come on, there's so much available, and it's all in Jesus. Guys, if you're watching this, I want you to get this book. Cynthia, thank you so much for writing this. And I'm looking forward to getting a hold. It just came out yesterday. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
I mean, just yesterday. Yeah. And so, guys, if you're watching this, just yesterday, this book came out. And where can they get this? Is this available on Amazon everywhere? Is
Yes.
it CynthiaGarrett.org? Where can they get this?
Well, let's see. You can find all things at CynthiaGarrett.org. There's also an I Choose Victory page that's really dedicated to this book, and we're doing a lot of things there, like webinars, especially webinars to reach women in their victory choice and in their victimization. And so you can go to ichoosevictory.com to get to the book, to get to any information you may need. And of course, the book is available on Amazon in whatever country that you're in, and Barnes and Nobles and BAM, all the bookstores. But yeah, Amazon's always the easiest. Instant gratification.
There you go. It's the download. You get it right there in your hands. And what a better time to read than right now. So, yeah, it's crazy. Cynthia, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. This has been awesome. I've laughed more today than I have in a while. And so thank you. This has been great. I'm so glad that we did this. And I look forward to the next time that we get to hang out beyond quarantine.
Yes, me too.
Yes.
Jamie, I love you. You know I love you. You're a fan and your family. I'm your fan. I'm your fan and you're our family. And
yeah, well, I'm your fan, and we're definitely family, and I love you, and I love Raj and Christian and all your crew. So we're definitely going to do that. I'll come out and visit you guys in Southern California, and we'll do something in the sunshine. In the sunshine.
Yes, in the sunshine. Yes.
Yay.
But we might sneak a trip into Nashville soon.
You come out. You don't you come here without telling me. Okay.
Are you kidding? No way. No way.
Don't you come here without telling me, because I know I was talking to Daniel Medina, Danny, Uncle Dan, and he's like, oh man, he was trying to get here to do a sneak surprise and say, hey. So but maybe he's stuck somewhere in quarantine traffic. Who knows? So listen, Cynthia, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. God bless you, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Love you, Jamie. Bye, everybody. iChooseVictory.com. Love ya.
All right. Bye-bye.